Giuseppe here. I'm doing a video response to Nutnfancy's 300 Blackout philosophy of use / review. I love Nutnfancy. I watch many of his videos. I think he gives a fantastic critical analysis of guns, weapon systems, cartridges, knives, you name it. He's one of the few that actually gives you a truthful, honest critique of the weapon and doesn't actually hold punches back. He is very valid on his constructive criticisms and for his praise. He has a well-founded background through his years in military service and through years doing TMP and reviewing guns. I very rarely disagree with any of his philosophies or his critiques of a weapon system or his praise. However, in the 300 Blackout, I feel that he was a little bit off and kind of contrary to his usual philosophies. In comparing it to the wrong cartridge, he was kind of trying to use it against its own philosophy of use, and he made some incorrect statements based on the cartridge. In order to contrast what he said, I have to first explain why this exists. Why does this cartridge exist in the world? Why is it popular? What's the point of it? Why is it better than this? Or why do they need it besides this? So this round, as Nutnfancy always points out, this is a pea shooter. It's been criticized many times by the military and by law enforcement that it's just not that strong when it comes to stopping power. And the 7.62x39 does not fit well in this package. This is my 300 Blackout upper for my AR-15. And 7.62x39 does work in the AR-15. It's a hobby gun. It's a problematic gun. People troubleshoot with it. Eventually, if you get it to work good, sometimes people can buy them right from the factory and they work well. They're not very common. Much of the equipment is proprietary. It's expensive. Whereas the 300 Blackout, where the point of this comes in, since this was too weak and the 7.62x39 did not fit well into this, they wanted to make a stronger cartridge with more stopping power that would fit well into this. Not only does it fit well, but you don't have to change anything except for the barrel and the brake. That's it. It uses the same gas systems, the same bolt carrier groups, same upper, lower, triggers, buffers, you name it. It uses it, the barrel and the compensator, and you have yourself a 300 Blackout. And 300 Blackout was created so that in its supersonic form, which is very valid, will perform very similar to a 7.62x39. 7.62x39 generally has a slightly hotter bullet because it's a slightly bigger shell, whereas the 300 Blackout will actually do better at range because the bullet itself is longer and has a smaller taper, so it cuts through the air better. But generally speaking, they're very identical ballistics-wise. You're going to get about the same bullet for the same grain on each caliber. Whereas this will work very well in this. And since I already owned my ARs, I already had AR mags, I had AR parts, it made much more sense for me to switch to 300 Blackout for more stopping power and for hunting purposes. Many states do not allow you to hunt with this round. They do not allow you to hunt with a 5.56. You have to have a 30 caliber or larger round. So especially if you are thinking about hunting with your modern sporting rifle, you have to look at something like this. Or you can do a bolt action or A1A. You can do many different guns that come in the 308 or larger calibers, but you have to have at least a 30 caliber round. Now, what Nutnfancy said, and what I would disagree with, would be that this caliber is niche, it's expensive, it's not really for your everyday crowd, and as I just mentioned, it's very much for the hunting crowd when they want to use their modern sporting rifles. But the supersonic form was invented to replace the desire for the 7.62 by 3.9. It is ballistically identical for the most part. It performs very, very well, and it was also created so that it could burn all of its powder within the first 9 inches of a barrel. Both the 7.62 by 3.9 and the 5.56 are very dependent on barrel length. All of these cartridges were meant to be 0 to 300 cartridges. Generally speaking, if you have a really nice SPR like Nutnfancy, the 5.56 can, and we've seen him reach out to 700 yards. In theory, can you hit something with this out to 700 yards? Yes. Can you, in theory, hit something with 7.62 by 3.9 out to 700 yards? Yes. Are those other two cartridges very barrel length dependent? Absolutely. Is this? No, it's not. It's not barrel length dependent, which was another criteria it made when they made this cartridge. It had to not be barrel length dependent. It had to be able to be readily available in subsonic form, and it had to ballistically match the 7.62 by 3.9 in supersonic form. And that is what they created. They successfully created it. And it's very impressive, and that's why this cartridge, since 2011, when it was semi-spec'd, has gained so much momentum. For its age, it is not an expensive cartridge. Is it more expensive than 7.62 by 3.9 and 5.56? Absolutely, because those have been around for 50 years, and we have those guns. That's what all of us use, generally speaking. We're just now starting to see the benefits of 300 Blackout, having that more stopping power, being able to hunt with it, and not having to change anything except for the barrel on this gun. I had AR-15s, I had the parts, I had the magazines, and all I had to change was my barrel and my compensator, and I was ready to go with a larger cartridge. You cannot do that with the 7.62 by 3.9. You'd be hard pressed to modify your AR-15s into 7.62 by 3.9. You're going to have to buy many proprietary parts. It's going to be expensive, and it's going to be a little workshop gun. You're going to have to problem solve it and get it to work right. Once it's functioning right, then you'll have a fantastic gun. Or you could just buy this cartridge, which is going to do the exact same thing. In some aspects, it's better. As I said, it's not barrel length dependent. 7.62 by 3.9 is. 7.62 by 3.9, you cannot go to Walmart and buy subsonic rounds. That's another thing Nutnfancy said. I can buy these cartridges at my Walmart. I can go to a little Wally World and hop down their little hunting section and buy this round. I bought Remington the other day. This is Corbon. This is a self-defense round. High quality. This was $1.40 per round. This is Remington, purchased at Walmart, and that was about 85 cents per round. It's a soft tip. It's Remington's high quality ammo, but it was pretty expensive at Wally World. I was surprised. But I bought Remington UMC 300 Blackout, and they also had subsonic ammo at Wally World, and the Remington was about 75 cents a round. That's very expensive. It happened to be cheaper by $2 than this did. I have no idea why. That was odd to me. But generally speaking, you can definitely get 5.56 for around 40 cents a round. I typically can find it for that. You can typically find 7.62 by 3.9 for between 20 and 40 cents a round. Sometimes very expensive if you want to get to a high quality self-defense round like this. They're over $1 for sure. But you're not training with that. You're going to train with something like this. This round right here is 300 Blackout, Cellular and Bellot, I believe I'm pronouncing that right. If not, sorry. But that is only 60 cents a round right here. 300 Blackout, 60 cents a round. This round is fantastic. The Fiocchi ammunition that Nutnfancy was using is an odd duck for 300 Blackout. It's slow, it has a low muzzle velocity, it has low muzzle energy, it's just not a good cartridge. It's 150 grains. Most 300 Blackout is going to be 110 or 120, and then it's going to jump all the way up to 200 to 220 for a subsonic ammo. The Fiocchi is, in my opinion, and you'd be hard-pressed to try to argue otherwise, the worst readily available 300 Blackout ammo you can get, and it really doesn't make sense for its philosophy of use. Its philosophy of use for the supersonic end is to be a 110 or 124 grain bullet. This is 124, this is 110. This is going to have 1,410 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. This is going to have about 1,300. This is going to have between 1,200 and like 1,280. So you're going to get a more powerful round, and it's going to have that stopping power that you want, or it's going to be that more ethical cartridge on the animal if you're trying to hunt. And if you're just target shooting, most of us, as Nutnfancy always points out, we don't shoot that much. I mean, people talk a big game, but this is 60 cents a round. I'm generally paying 40 cents a round for 5.56. It's not that big a difference. And when you look at the ease of switching over, if, say, I wanted a stronger round, I'd have to buy an entirely new gun to go to an AK, or problem solve, or buy an entirely new gun and magazines, etc. if I wanted to change to a 7.62x39 AR. Or you can just buy a barrel and a compensator and a couple boxes of 60 cent per round ammo, and you're good to go. You can start hunting with your modern sporting rifle. Generally speaking, I mean, you can't even compare it to 300 Win. I mean, the cheapest I found was PRVI, and that was 84 cents a round, and it's generally 98 cents to $1 a round. 300 Blackout, you have that Cellular and Bellot, 124 grains, 60 cents a round. The MagTech, 60 cents a round for 123 grain. And that's a fantastic training ammo. I mean, that's putting out 1360 of muzzle energy, and it's going 2230 feet per second. I mean, that's a great round. Those rounds are going to perform so much better than the Fiocchi. I mean, the Fiocchi is 150 grain. It's only going 1920, and with 1230 foot-pounds of energy. I mean, that's worse than most 5.56 rounds, and it's going 800 or more feet per second slower. Usually 5.56 is going 3,000 plus, and that's not even breaking 2,000. So I mean, most 300 Blackout is going to break that 2,000 mark. It's going to go 22 to 2,400 feet per second, and it's going to have the same muzzle energy of a 7.62x39, but it's going to last longer. It's going to go further. The bullet's more aerodynamic. I'm sorry, it will have a little bit less muzzle energy, but it will retain that muzzle energy a bit better. But it's not meant to go out to 700 yards. It's meant to go out to 300. And then they added this fantastic niche that Nutnfancy was mentioning, that it can be subsonic. This round can be in a 9-inch, 10-inch gun, which the 7.62x39 and 5.56 just can't. I mean, the amount of performance you lose by doing that would just handicap it to the point of where you would question why you were even using that cartridge. Something unique that the military can gain from using a 300 Blackout is that on a special operations unit, if they're going into a building, if they're going to an operation where stealth is paramount, and they enter the situation with their silencers and subsonic magazine in their AR with 300 Blackout, and they're shooting whisper quiet ammunition, and then all of a sudden they go outside of the building and they need to reach out to 300 yards, they can just change their magazine and they have that supersonic powerful ammunition that they needed without having to change a gun, without having to bring a second gun, without having that complication of creating a special round for that mission. You can go to Walmart and find subsonic ammunition. You can find supersonic ammunition. It's relatively reasonably priced, between 70 and 80 cents a round usually, for training supersonic ammo, and the same for subsonic. They have American Eagle for about 75 cents. Remington UMC is 79 cents that I bought at Wally World. All of those are going to perform way better than that Fiocchi stuff. And the Fiocchi is 70 cents a round, so it's relatively cheap. Not as cheap as the Magtech or Cellular and Bella, which are going to work better. But if that was what you had for an option, it's 70 cents and you can practice with it, but you have way better performing 300 Blackout rounds, as the cartridge is so versatile and it's made in so many weights. Fiocchi sucks, and that's what Nutnfancy was using. And then he was trying to compare it to the 308 Winchester, and that's just, it's not even fair comparison. They're not meant to do the same things. They're not meant to compete with each other. This 300 Blackout is meant to put a 30 caliber bullet in an AR platform, and simply replace this with just replacing the barrel and your compensator. And it's done that very well. That is why it's very popular. It has that added versatility for military missions, so thinking that they may pick it up someday is not far-fetched. It's going to have the supersonic reach, 0 to 300 yards. It's going to have the subsonic capacity and availability for those covert missions and those intricate changes that can happen in a combat situation, and you never know which you might need, and having a magazine with both and a gun that's meant to do that is fantastic. And then add to it, you can have all that in a 9.5 inch barrel and not lose any performance. That is why this round is so unpopular. That is why Nutnfancy kind of skewed from its philosophy. He kind of exaggerated what it was meant for, that it was supposed to reach out to 700 yards, that you can't get it at Walmart, that it's super expensive. For its young age, it is not very expensive. And for its purpose of 0 to 300 in a CQB, it's hard pressed to try to beat it. It's almost unbeatable. And that's why it's gained so much popularity so quickly. And that's why it's not going to go anywhere. It's here to stay. It has a firm place in SWAT teams, and if the SOCOM community wants to adopt it, it will have a firm foothold there as well. Once it's tried and proven, and they start switching out some barrels, whether or not they're 9.5 inches or 16 inches, this round is going to have more power than your 5.56, and it's going to perform like a 7.62 by 3.9 out of your convenient AR-15 package. And it would be a cheap swap for them. The military has amazing resources, but being able to make that swap very easily and not have to throw away your spare parts to switch to a different platform, that's just invaluable. It's an amazing feat that they did with this cartridge, and I hope that people can open their eyes to it. I mean, if you look at it critically, you'll understand that this is actually a cartridge that's here to stay, and it has a place in the world. It has a purpose, and it's not just in an SBR with a suppressor. It's going to outperform just as much as a 7.62 by 3.9 would over a 5.56, and it has its place in the hunting world, the self-defense world, although over-penetration is going to be a problem if you're talking about your supersonic ammunition. Your subsonic ammunition wouldn't be bad for that. And yeah, so you guys go out, shoot them yourself, play with them yourself. If you know someone has a 300 Blackout, try it out. I mean, I can tell you one thing, with this compensator and this setup I have here, my friend with his 5.56, we just push pinned this upper on his gun, and his A2 flash hider, that 5.56 was kicking about twice as hard as, this is a fantastic compensator, I'll do a review someday on this upper, about twice as hard as my 300 Blackout, and the steel targets were spinning. I mean, it looked like it was twice as fast, but it's not. But I mean, you have a noticeable difference on how much harder this was hitting than his 5.56 on those steel targets that spun. And it's just a very impressive cartridge, and I wouldn't discount it. And for the first time, I wouldn't take Nutnfancy's word as gold. This is Giuseppe signing out. Thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.